Welcome back, Mobile Home Park Nation. Ferd Neiman, Mobile Home Park lawyer, here again with another podcast. Today we're going to launch some property management 101. I just released a podcast on property management contracts, but today we're going to get more into the actual operations of property management as part of a little mini series here. First person we're going to talk to, good friend of mine, longtime friend, been working with my company here for about 2.5 years. Great property manager. Please help me welcome Austin Marsh to the show. Austin, how you doing, man?
Hey, Ferd, how's it going? Great to be
Good.
here.
Good, man. Now you can't say I've never said anything good about you. So
Yeah.
I just lied for you on national TV. They've got a big following here.
There's a first for everything.
I'm just giving you crap. Austin and I have a nice buddy relationship where we're always razzing each other, and I like to pick on him, but don't tell the HR department because they wait, that's me too. So just kidding. Austin, I know you real well, obviously. Tell the rest of us more about yourself and how you got into this business, and then we'll go from there and talk about MHP operations.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I never thought I would be in the MHP business, but here I am, and I'm loving it. It's exciting. It is an exciting business. I've done a lot of different things. I started out as a teacher out of college. I've been a bartender before. I've done a number in some other random jobs, but mainly a teacher right out of college. And then Ferd Neiman comes along and asks me if I want to join him on this journey here. So he asked me if I wanted to be a park manager for him, and I said yes. And I started out in Delton, Missouri, is the park that I'm managing and kind of rehabbing there, and that's kind of how I got into it.
All right. Yeah. And as you guys will hear from today, Austin's more of the full-time hands-on park manager. You can get as low as, I say low, but don't mean to be offensive. You can be as low on a compensation as like a park greeter. We've got some park greeters that do very limited work for us, like hand out notices, once a month, or read the water meters once a month on a 16-unit park, and they get paid like $75 a month. And they got park greeters that get free lot rent. Some of them get free lot rent and $10 a pad. Some of them get, $500 a month. And then you've got all the way up to the park manager of an infill project or a turnaround project. And we've got several of those. And Austin's one of them where he gets a salary. I like to say I like to pay the managers a living wage salary, but not much more, frankly. I'd like them to be motivated via commission. So salary plus commission plus bonus. And Austin sold, 50 houses in the last 18 months. So he's, probably made more on commission and he got a nice truck as a bonus and some other bonuses. So I like to do it as the owner, to not have the manager just be sitting there collecting a check. So by having a compensation structure that works like that naturally happens. And it's not for everybody, but that helps kind of from an ownership stance, flesh it out. So Austin, I had a good feel for your job, but for those of us those other people who do not, tell us some of the key roles or kind of job categories that you work on as if you're property manager, but you're also kind of a project manager of sorts. So tell us what that looks like.
Yeah, I wear a lot of different hats, which, like I said before, does make the job exciting. I get to do a lot of different things. I guess my role, how I understand it, and how I've kind of done it is, we're taking a park that needs a lot of work. And so there's a large project management aspect to it, rehabbing houses, bringing new homes in, and then you also have to fill those houses. So the leasing side of it, doing showings, walking people through the loan process, getting people moved in, that kind of thing. There's also you're dealing with tenants, and their issues, and you're collecting rent. You're dealing with personnel management and vendors. So there's a lot of things that kind of go into it, to make the whole thing run.
Sure. Now, when I offered you the job, I'm pretty sure I told you that the first 90 days is the worst, the hardest, and then the next 90 is not quite as hard, and then it starts to level out. Has that proven to be accurate the last 2.5 years?
We move at quite the pace here. So I mean, the first 90 days were definitely hard. Well, I mean, by hard, I mean, we had a lot going on. I think you used the phrase drinking water through a fire hose. Um, so, but a lot happened in those first 90 days. And the people who, and the tenants saw an immediate change and jumped on board with us and did, they, started cleaning their own yards and started taking pride in their own homes and their lots. I don't know if level out is the word I would use because we're always looking for new things and new projects and ways to make the park better. Or I think my role may be a little different because of our relationship and stuff. I'm probably brought in on more things than maybe a normal park manager would be. So so I wouldn't say level out. I would say kind of evolves. My role kind of evolves and changes, and I get to take on new responsibilities, which is always fun too. So.
Right. Yeah. So as you know, we're now doing another park here in Kansas City that you're helping out with Steve, and then also the park in Nebraska, you're helping out from afar. So you are kind of wearing numerous hats there, but I want to identify some of those first 90 days projects, things that are always challenging. You're going to roll out leasing guidelines and rules, start enforcing rules, typically a rent increase, and then capital expenditure projects. Like in Belton, we did, repave the streets, I think we cut down 60 tons of trees. We demo a couple houses, and then as the spring came, we painted, 20, 25 houses, planted 60 rose bushes, put in fencing and signage and things like that. So those are kind of the one-off projects. It's like, man, you're trying to get used to your job, and then you got all this one-off stuff. And sub-metered the water, by the way, and did that as well. So those are the one-off projects, and for the most part, that calms down after about 6 months. And then you're just doing, but you're doing the other things, like you mentioned, personnel management, project management, leasing, sales, advertisements, new home move-ins, which can be a challenge depending on the lot, right? I mean, if the lot is up front and it's big and spacious, it's not that tough. If it's in the back and it's tight and there's 19 cars in the way, it's kind of a fire drill on the day or two before and day of arrival. So, yeah, what would you say is your favorite part of the job? And I'm gonna ask you your least favorite part next, and you can't say your supervisor.
Yeah, my favorite part of the job is probably, I don't know if this is going to sound cheesy, but is actually, when the move-in process or finalizing the sale and the excitement that you see kind of on the new resident's face, and a lot of people, and we've kind of talked about this before, Ferd, but people purchasing a mobile home. It's not a stick-built house or something like that, but it's ownership, and people, a lot of people don't think they'll ever own anything. So seeing them get excited and realize that they themselves can own their own home is a really fun part of the job.
No, for sure. I know we've been there for several of those stories together, and people, crying when they got approved. They're so happy, and they can't believe they have a house this nice, because a lot of these folks have come from substandard apartment housing, and they're surprised. That's one thing I like about 21st Mortgage. I know they can be a hassle at times, and I can't imagine anybody sends more emails on the planet than people who work for 21st Mortgage, but their lending standards are reasonable in the sense that, they let people in who don't get approved, but for cars sometimes. So it's unbelievable to see people like, yeah, a lot of these residents have been told no their whole life. No, you can't own a house. No, you can't own a car, or you're going to buy it at a buy here, pay here place and pay 200% interest. It's going to choke you every month. And then you miss your payment, they turn off the ignition, and it's just a nightmare. So it's been nice to be, as we call them, convert people who come in as a renter. And as you know, that's one of our marketing strategies. Is we market the home for rent, and then when they get there, say, we'll rent it to you, but you can save money in their private ownership if you buy it. They're like, well, I can't get approved, but it's free to apply. And 21st Mortgage doesn't approve everybody, but they approve a lot of people. And yeah, that's been great for sure. What tip, I know you deal with 21st mortgage all the time.
Yeah.
And they may approve a lot of people, but not a lot of people follow through and get through the gauntlet, if you
Yeah.
will, of proving it. What are some tips or tricks you can share with our audience on that process? I know you see a lot of people just fall off the face of the earth on that, and as you say, ghost you. But what tips can you share on that?
I think one of the main things as far as like keeping people, I don't want to say interested because they're obviously interested in buying a home, but kind of keeping people on the hook, I guess, is just doing it quickly, being on top of it. As soon as you get the approval, as soon as that email comes in, says, because what happens is we'll get an email saying someone got approved at the same time they do, the same time the applicant does. So immediately getting on the phone and saying, hey, how can you know, congratulations. We'll congratulate them first and share that moment with them for sure. And then say, and then what can we do to get these documents in? Because that's always the part where you get hung up, is trying to collect paycheck stubs and proof of down payment and bank statements and all that kind of stuff. So just being on top of that right away and walking them through exactly what they need. Some people get flustered in those situations, so really kind of laying it out for them. Sometimes you have to, it's not as easy as getting a savings account statement because they don't have a savings account. So coming up with creative ways to prove whether it's income or how they have their down payment, or where that down payment's coming from. And actually, because I think sometimes it's overwhelming for them because they're not used to tracking that stuff down. So being a part of that process with them and helping them, showing them that, you know, it's easier than they think, and I can help them with it as well. So
Sure. No, I remember a couple in particular with people that they're like, oh, I'll never get approved. I get paid in cash. And I was like, well, that's okay if you have a bank account. Remember one guy, Ryan, he's like, I said, he sells tires for a living. You know, like picks up dead tires and takes them to the dump, I guess. So he buys tires from dealerships and stuff and mechanic places. And I was like, why aren't you buying? Oh, I can't buy. I get paid cash. I said, do you have a bank account? Yeah. Do you put your money in a bank account? Yeah. Like regularly? Yeah. Every like once a week. That's a paycheck. I mean, then it's different every month, every week, but it's somewhat consistent. And 21st mortgage just required, I think, 8 or 10 weeks instead of the normal 2 pay stubs. But got that guy over the hump, and boom,
yeah,
he's a homeowner, and he never thought he would be. You know, he made good money. It was just in a non-traditional format. He's an entrepreneur. You know,
and he's been a great resident too. I mean, he was a good one for sure.
right, for sure. So what other tips? I mean, I know you deal a lot with, you know, our handymen, our contractors, and we've done so many park home remodels and so many infills in this park and now in the other parks in the region that we've got full-time guys on the maintenance crew, and that can be like herding cats. We go through a lot of maintenance guys in different properties, it seems like. So how do you keep these guys in line and keep the wheels of commerce moving as it pertains to turning over units?
Uh, sure. Yeah. I mean, I think one of the main things to keep things moving and to keep guys on task, is to keep things simple for them. I think we learned that you can't just kind of rattle off, you know, the plan that's in your head. You got to kind of break it down, kind of step by step. And by that, I mean, really just making lists of things, giving them a priority task sheet. So these are the jobs that need to get done, preferably today. And, you know, you always run into snags and other things that kind of get in the way, but, and, you know, work on this task until you're done and then move on to the next one, and make it real clear so that they know what to focus on. Because my vantage point and your vantage point, Ferd, you have a higher vantage point, so you have even more things going on. But I'm dealing with, you know, the vendors and the applicant, the person that wants to move in, and the tenants and the bank, 21st Mortgage. So I have a much different picture than they do. So I might think, so I need to hone that in for the laborers and say, okay, this is what I need you to do. And I'll tell them why. And we have a tenant moving in a week. We need to get this done. So really giving them a why, really being specific with them. The other thing with that is knowing your personnel and using them for the right thing. So, like we have one guy that's well, I don't know if I should say his name, but we have one guy who's been with us for a long time, who is, I mean, super talented, and has saved us in a pinch 100 times. But good luck getting him to show up to work before noon, you know? Or you know, but when he shows up, he works hard, and if you point him in the right direction, he'll do good work for you. We have another guy who's really good at drywall. And I would put him in on drywall over another guy. But we have another guy who's better at, who thinks more like a manager. And, you know, I can send him on supply runs maybe, or kind of put him in charge of timelines and deadlines and stuff like that. So knowing who your guys are helps a ton too, and putting them in the right spot.
I think that's just a good management tip in general, is knowing your team and knowing what their strengths are and what they're not. And what you described is the priority order list. I mean, that is set forth in the book, The One Thing by Gary Keller. I learned it years ago when I was in the insurance business. I think it was from Charles Schwab, and not the investment bank, but the Charles Schwab that worked for Rockefeller. And he learned from a guy named Lee Ivy. And it's just basically a today's plan. We do it, every one of us, every single day in priority order. For the contractors, we tend to learn to take that out of their hands, and then we do it every day for them. Hey, here is your today's plan, in order. Do not go to step 2 until you finish step 1, and then they can focus their energy and their intellect on the skilled labor task, as opposed to the planning task that sometimes they seem to lack. But I think that's the best way to make your life difficult, is to let the laborers be unsupervised, and they're going for a 2-hour lunch. They go to Home Depot, and they're like, what happened? Oh yeah, I forgot I had to go to pay my electric bill, and I pay it in cash because it's due now, or I'm gonna have the lights turned off. It's like, what? You have enough money. We pay you this. I know how much money you make. I know what your rent is. You literally live here, and I know how much your pay is. But somehow your money's gone.
Yeah.
So another tip there, we tend to pay our laborers on Tuesdays. This is kind of a stereotype in the construction industry, but if you pay the guys on Friday, they might go out to the bar or the club, and they're out of money by Monday, and then their kids don't eat for the rest of the week. So if you pay them on Tuesday, they go buy groceries on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then if they blow the money on Friday or Saturday, at least they got food in the house. So it's kind of helping people help themselves, because there's sometimes a history of bad behavior there. I don't mean to be down on these guys. I love these guys, and we got, I don't even know how many, sent out 1099s a day. I think it was like 100 of them. So lots of guys on the payroll, guys and gals, but as long as they're working with us and working with them, it works. And another tip I know, tell us a little bit about some of your checklists you put in place, or we put in place together, because I know that's a good way to systematize things for like your home move in, and tell me some more of them that have made your life easier.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've really discovered the what's the word I'm looking for there? Just the necessity, I guess, of lists, and how much they make your life easier. So just putting together, you mentioned the homes coming in, just having a list of everything that needs to go. It sounds simple, but sometimes you overlook that, or you don't have it in place. And everything that needs to be done, from when the home arrives to when they move in, and who needs to do it. And so you go down the list, and you check the stuff off one at a time as you go. And then again, like I said, making sure the laborers have that list as well, so that they can kind of do that. And one of the things with moving homes in, because that's something we've brought a lot of homes in, a lot of brand new homes, some used homes as well. So being able to do that process repeatedly, and using those same lists, and updating them when necessary, then the laborers know, they understand that process. you know, because we've done it so many times and we've done it in a certain order so many times. And so it's kind of trained in their brain. So at that point they can, you know, they're ahead of me on some stuff. They're like, the electric got turned on one of the, you know, you have to have the Evergy bring the electric meter on to one of the homes, to the homes when they get brought in, after they pass inspection. And one of the laborers saw that Evergy was there and put the meter on and knew that we had someone ready to move in. And he got a hold of me. He said, "Hey, I just saw Evergy here. They put the meter on. Can I go in and start doing the things on the list that we're able to do now because we have energy, because we have electric in the house?" And I said, "Absolutely, get over there and do it." And he did. And so, you know, because we have the list and we go in order every time, he knows what to do when that meter comes in. So they help out a ton. Mhm.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good example of having your team understand the supply chain process. So I should do a whole podcast on bringing and moving it home because there's so many steps involved. But I know at your park, for example, that you have to have it, you know, the install guys set it, block it down, tie it, hook up the water sewer. Then you can, and then we hook up the electric line, but then we get an inspection. Well, then Evergy, the electric company, comes and hooks up the juice. Okay, well, now we can do the next level of inspection, which is skirting it, deck, make sure the panel box is good, air conditioner, all that kind of stuff. But it's going through that process and knowing, hey, when the home is there, we can't put skirting on, right? We can't put the deck on because you got to wait for the inspection, or you got to wait for the install guys to tie it down properly. But what can we do? Well, we can install the blinds on the inside. We can install the light bulbs. We can get all that kind of stuff ready. Make sure the smoke detector, fire extinguisher, all that kind of stuff. Pictures, ads, you know, put the staging furniture in there, all those sort of items to get the ball rolling. So as soon as the electric's there, boom, we're ready to go. And we've sold many houses before they were ready. We got people waiting on us, you know, which is a good problem to have, but it's stressful if you mess up the timeline and you miss something. Oh crap, I forgot to do this. I didn't get the permit. And then you got to slow down and you lose a day, you lose 2 days. Oh, then it rains for a day. Now you lost, that's a weekend, you know, and then crap, we lost 4 days because I forgot one step in the process. So yeah, it's definitely a good idea. And then that's why once you find good guys, you know, pay them right, treat them right, and keep them around, you know, to retrain them. And, you know, our one friend, you know, in particular, who shows up at noon every day, it's like, I want to fire him once a week. If I said I'm going to fire him, but he keeps coming back. It's like that scene in Dumb and Dumber where like, and you totally redeem yourself. Like that's what he does. He's like, yeah, I just saved you $1,000 in an hour solving this big problem. Yeah. It's like, okay, you know, and again, we each have our own, right? You're not that good looking, but you tell good jokes, so we keep you around, you know. So it's like you got to figure out there's some ebb and flow and some balance to keep people around. And when you find somebody good, keep them for sure. So I know you've managed people on that. I know you manage tenants. Give us a tip or two on dealing with your residents. And the residents, you know, they're the lifeblood of the company, right? Without them, none of us get paid. But at the same time, some of them are great, some of them are not so great. How do you handle, you know, residents that are out of control or residents that are, you know, disrespectful or just overall difficult? What's your strategy?
Yeah, I mean, you do get residents that are, that's, how do I put it politely? I guess they think their problem is the biggest problem in the world. And you're looking at your list of stuff and you're like, that's not a problem. I mean, it is. And we do take care of the tenants. I don't want to make it sound like we don't, but you do get tenants who get upset or other things like that for various reasons. And the biggest thing I've found is just de-escalate. Just, you know, don't treat it like the problem that they think it is. Kind of match them where they're at and then kind of talk them down a little bit. Explain. One of the biggest things is kind of explaining my process on how I do things. And then when they understand how it gets from them having a problem to to communicating that with us, to getting someone out there to fix a problem. Once they kind of understand that process, then they kind of it kind of corrects things. So you'll have a problem with a tenant, hopefully once, maybe twice, and then once they understand how the process works.
Let me interrupt you so I can emphasize, like, problem is not like, hey, I smell gas, my house, the problem is like, my dishwasher doesn't dry properly, it goes slow. Like, okay, that's unfortunate. We can fix that if it's a park-owned home in particular. But I've got 300 families moving in today, and my guys are all putting decks or building decks. Or I've got the guy in number 5 has his pipes frozen, so I've got 2 guys underneath the home trying to defrost the pipes, and that's more important. Sorry, somebody else's issue is more important to me globally, and then you have to measure, you have to weigh all that. So that's what you're talking about. I know that, but I want to make sure that it's not just write it off. But then the other problem we get with residents is their personal problems impact their life, and they want to impact your life. I always say, don't let them steal your time, because they will. We have our meetings standing up and walking, so we're always moving. Hey, gotta run, as opposed to sit around, or they'll pop in the office and, let me tell you about my niece has that COVID, and I'm not supposed to be. Oh my gosh! And then I lost my car payment is behind, and let me tell you about my cousin who got in a fight, and it's like, I got to keep working. A lot of these residents have nothing better to do than small talk all day. So we have to politely let them know, hey, I'm in the middle of something, or I'm in a meeting, or I'm going to this other appointment, without making them feel like you're blowing them off, because you don't want to blow them off. But at the same time, you have to guard your own time when they will steal it. And I know you've learned how to do that, and but you've lost a lot of time when they try to steal it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing with that is, and it took me a little while to figure out exactly how to do this, but set boundaries that are clear. And so it's not, I'm not dealing with it each time a tenant comes in and wants to steal my time. You have when there are certain tenants that habitually kind of do this, that you'll find. And so being able to set boundaries with them and say, hey, when I'm like, you can't, like, I can't be interrupted during these times, or, I can talk to you, if you want to talk to me about that, I can talk to you, when I'm leaving work, or if it's not something that pertains to, if you're not putting in a repair request or something that affects you in our tenant kind of manager relationship, then it's something we have to wait to talk about, and kind of set those boundaries. And then they're not going to follow them ever, but it gives you something to remind them of. Hey, remember when we talked about this? And they're, oh yeah, okay, sorry, I'll come back later, or something like that. And that way they don't feel like you're blowing them off, and you can still maintain a good relationship with them, and things like that. So setting boundaries, I think, is the biggest thing with that.
Right. No, I think that's good advice. And just for the other park owners out there, it's ideal if you find somebody like Austin who is fluent in Spanish, because I speak zero Spanish, but Austin speaks Spanish, so that helps a lot. We have, I don't know, 8 or 10 Hispanic residents, maybe 15 out there now. We got Juan, he speaks Spanish. Hector speaks Spanish. Those guys are at other parks, but Kristen speaks some Spanish. I'm trying to think who else maybe else speaks Spanish. I think Andy actually speaks some Spanish too, but Dad and I speak zero Spanish. So it's nice to have people that do, because it's hard to communicate when you don't. And I can use Google Translate and translate my, welcome letter into 2 languages, but I can't articulate lease terms or pricing or something like that to a customer. So that's a helpful skill for sure. What other information you want to share? Anything else you can think of, tips or tactics or job duties that you think would be good for our listeners to hear?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that I've kind of learned is just maintaining relationships. So just having good relationships with the vendors, having good relationships with the tenants, having good relationships with the workers, because because I mean, it's, things happen all the time. So there are times when, you know, for with the tenants, for example, you know, if I'm like shooing someone away because they're taking up my time, that's going to create a bad relationship, and that's going to affect. They're going to have a negative attitude. They're not. If it can affect a lot of things, whether they, respond to you when you ask them to clean up their yard, or paying rent on time, or a number of other things. Same thing with your laborers, same thing with your vendors, because you're going to have to ask things of people at different times, and if they're mad at you, or they think you know blew them off or something like this in this example, then they don't, they're not going to respond to you as well. So I think just maintaining those relationships is one of the biggest things I think you can do as a manager.
Sure, just basically being likable and being righteous and just with people. I know I was debating on this park if I was going to keep the prior manager or not when I was in my due diligence, and I rarely do. And this park it wasn't horribly mismanaged. It was mismanaged, and the occupancy was really low. Um, Collections were low, so I guess it was mismanaged. But the woman there, her excuse was the ownership didn't give me enough money, didn't give me enough team members. And I'm like, okay, and I'm like, well, I'll be involved. And these guys were out of California and Chicago, so they hadn't been to the property in like 3 years. So anyway, I was debating keeping her, and she was sharp, but she just which wasn't working. But when I was there, I was the potential buyer, so she was trying to impress me and give me time and attention, which is fine. But some of the residents came in and wanted to talk to her. And I remember a particular Hispanic woman, and she said something in Spanish, and the woman was like, Kayla's the manager's like, no Spanish. One of the main guys was talking Spanish, like, no Spanish in here. We only speak English in the company. She did like they're going to cut some deal in Spanish that she didn't know about, but she was super rude to the customer and residents. And hey, I'm in a meeting. Can you not see that I'm in a meeting? Like almost like adults are talking. Just was really, really rude. And I was just like, if she's doing that in front of me, what is she doing when I'm not here?
Right.
She's not going to have that customer service vibe. And, I'm going to put you on the spot and see if you got the answer right. But what's the number one job function for you?
Sales.
Sales. Yes. I know you better not say customer service, but it's really sales. I say sales is your top job priority as a property manager, then sales, and then sales. And then you got other stuff like people management, personnel management, office management, dealing with special projects, dealing with, bookkeeping, etc. But it's sales, because without sales, you can never really increase the occupancy. You can never really increase the value of the asset, which is relatively important to me, right? So this woman was going to be horrible at sales because she wasn't kind to people. So that's why I knew you'd be good at sales, because you were a likable, jovial fellow. I was like, I'll teach you property management. I'll teach you the real estate business.
Mhm.
It's hard to teach. You can teach sales skills, but you can't, it's hard to teach demeanor and personality to somebody who's an old curmudgeon. And it's hard to convert that. Frank Rolfe, I love this quote of his. He says, it's easier to change people than to change people. So that's what I did. I changed management, and it worked out well. So it's been fun. I know you're going to be relocated soon. You've put yourself out of a job by filling all those lots, but that's good. So you're going to get relocated. So that's awesome as well. Appreciate you coming on, Austin. Any more closing comments before we wrap up?
No, I mean, I think just I never thought I would be in the mobile home business, but it's been quite the adventure, and I think we have plans to write a book about it at some point.
Oh yeah, we got all these great stories. Tell us your best story. That's a good point. Tell us your best crazy story about the homeless guy in the house. What you got all kinds of these. Just
yeah, I don't know what I'm allowed to say on here, but
yeah, it's probably true.
No, I did. Yeah, I mean, I did have a homeless guy come in, and it was like right when right when we first were getting going, and I was in a vacant home that came with the purchase of the park, and I was fixing a closet sliding door, and to do it, you had to be inside the door because you had to hook it up, right? So I was like inside the closet, like trying to hook this door. So the doors were like closed, and I'm trying to hook the door on, and then I get it on and I slide it open, and there's a homeless guy standing in the room staring at me, just like staring. And I was just, I mean, I guess I didn't know it was just if he's homeless or not, but I mean, he was just standing in the room, and I was just, I don't know you, and it was pretty terrifying. He turned out to be a nice guy or whatever, but I mean, that takes some cojones to just, to walk up on
Well,
somebody.
and what's funny is if it was me, I would have probably kicked him and, um, or defended myself, or maybe I would have ran and screamed. I don't know, but you're like, hey man, hop in my car. I'm going to drive you off the property. You're not allowed to be here. But you like literally drove this guy away, like gave him a ride to a shelter or something. It's like, wow, that's good. One other funny thing I wanted you to tell us, tell everybody about our little furry friends that walk around in Belton that I've never seen before.
Are you talking about the groundhogs?
Yes.
Oh man, I don't think I've ever seen a groundhog before working in Belton at this mobile home park, but these guys have just overran. Well, they started to overrun the park. So we had to buy traps, and
These things are huge. So they're like groundhogs on steroids. Like they got to be the biggest groundhogs in America. They're 25, 30 pounds, and they just roam and just dig holes in the earth and then
just
destabilize pier foundations. They're just a nightmare. But anyway, how many times have I tried to catch the dang things, and they're tough. But anyway.
I think you threw a rock at one time.
Yeah, you weren't supposed to say that. I did. I was defending myself. It was actually a sledgehammer. It was a mini sledge, and these things are ferocious.
Yeah,
Hector would catch them live, and then he would put them in his van. And these things were so big they would break out of the traps, and he's got groundhogs running around.
Yeah,
the joys of the trailer park business, if you will. But,
things you don't think you're going to have to deal with.
We'll add those to the book. But anyway, thanks, Austin. Have a good night.
All right, thanks, Ferd. Have a good one.